I'm always optimistic on the US. I mean, it's very hard not to be. If one day they say we're not going to loan people anymore, that's it. We're going to pack and move all to Australia or Singapore or who knows where else.
Keep hearing a lot of talk about the recession, rising interest rates,
Yes.
property prices slowing down and adjusting. Should we wait until there's blood in the street to get possible deals? And then do we anticipate cap rates to soften as lending rates keep going up? How do we hedge on that in our underwriting?
So right now there is that period of decompression. Like people are still not dealing with reality. You know, it's like if you slap somebody on the face, it's going to take them a few seconds to kind of just process what just happened. Like, why? It's like, what did this? This is what's happening now. Boom, interest rates going up. Bam, 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 bam. Every increase, and the Federal Reserve is saying we're going to keep increasing it until we curb inflation. So it is not market driven. It is policy driven. Like I've been saying for years, it's policy driven. It's no longer the free market. It's just the free market is there is supply shortage from COVID. There is still huge demand. And they said, we don't like this because the inflation is so high. We're going to create a problem. We're going to increase interest rates. Okay. So increase interest rates, market slows down, and then they're going to start adjusting a little bit and it's going to pick up again. So how do you find the best deals in this market? As interest rates increase, the payment is double. The payment is, I'm telling you, look at it. It was 3%, it's 7. There are people getting loans at 7.8%. They were quoted 3% December last year. So the payment is very high. So what happens is it has to reflect in the price of the homes. So we go back to what we're talking about here, to what we're talking about right here. Okay, so are we, if I'm getting a residential property, are you gonna live in there? If you're gonna live there, if you're trying to buy a home to live in it, well, make sure it's a desirable home and you're not overpaying, because eventually you're gonna have to borrow against it, refinance it, whatever. But if it's an investment property, well, what is the rent? Because rent is gonna increase. Rent is gonna at least stay steady because they're not gonna be able to afford homes. They can't make the payments for the homes. So if you're gonna get long-term, good. Airbnb, you better be in a very desirable location. That's a destination location, people wanna go there, etc. If not, maybe it's a good corporate location where corporate executives come in and you can rent it like corporate rental. If you're gonna buy a retail building, let's continue getting these QSRs because they're gonna rent. Now the QSRs may now that they see there is inflation, they may actually, believe it or not, say, I want to lock it in for 10 years because they don't want this stuff to keep climbing up. They say, let's lock it in for 10 years. I'll pay you X and give me that 10 years with a 2% increase or 3%. So they are able to absorb the inflation in their products and their staff cost instead of also the lease, which will actually give you a better leverage. So the question on the cap rates, it actually may work out pretty well. Just continue with this. People, there is a flight to safety, but these vacant buildings may sell at a lower price, but then we're gonna get good tenants. And then, so even though the multiplier may not be times 16, maybe times 15, guess what? We're gonna get a better price coming in and a decent rent because they have to pay the rent. And we're gonna tell them, I'll give you flat rate if you pay me X. I had a tenant renew with me. They're not supposed to renew for another year and a half. So I called them. I said, how are you doing? And I said, you're supposed to renew in a year and a half. I have a proposal for you. Because I'm refinancing my portfolio, this lease is gonna be due in a year and a half. Would you like to renew now for 10 years? They said, we'll do 5 years. I said, okay, I'll give you this price. I'll make it flat because they got very scared of the inflation because in a year and a half, they said, you're gonna jack it up way higher. I said, I'll give you now, but I'll increase a little bit and let's start effective October 1st. So on October 1st, we increased it and gave them flat for 5 years and I got a great deal. And now the bank is so happy in my refinancing package because I said, oh, this was gonna renew in a year and a half. They just renewed now for a little bit more and it's flat for 5 years. They're like, the bankers are sitting looking at each other like, oh my gosh, look at, you know me, if you ever sat with me, you know, I take a lot of pictures. Here is the banker sitting very happy at his desk. Looks like a doctor's office, huh? Look at him smiling. I said, let me take a picture so I can remember this moment. So, and same for apartment buildings. You may be able to negotiate a good deal. Payments are going to be higher. So what are you going to say? Hey, I can give you a 4% cap on this apartment building. It's going to be 6.5%, or I can make the deal because I got to be at par at least with the interest rate, and so on. So look at the deal. It's going to be price or terms. The terms are changing because the lending has changed. So now negotiate the price to make the numbers work. And remember, when you want to calculate the numbers, go to calculatestuff.com, calculatestuff.com, and it's going to say mortgage. Click on mortgage, how much, and then put your numbers, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. What if the interest rate is 6.15, interest rate 6%? I mean, my loans, because they're so big when I'm doing the refi, 0.15% can make a difference. So I tell the lender, you know, what if I give you a CD for $500,000? Oh, we go down a quarter of a point. Quarter of a point for me down is like maybe $7,500 a month difference in payments. So I'll put anyway, I have to put reserves with the bank, but I put it now as CD, so they pay me. Believe it or not, the CD pays 3%. 3% on a CD. So I actually saved both ways, and they're happy because on my $500,000, they're gonna, I guess, loan 5 million because it's 10 or 20 times. I don't know what the banks are doing right now. So look at each deal based on its own merit in terms of what numbers it will produce. If I pay this, okay, it's not gonna work. If I pay that, it will work because the interest rate is here. And now, instead of paying that interest rate, let me see if the seller will carry the financing. And if you build enough rapport with the seller, if you show them that it's lower risk because you're going to do this, because you're going to do that, because you're going to invest in the building, etc., a lot of sellers are willing to work with you. And I'll tell you something, you may also want to consider, since we're on that subject, floating interest rates, because the rumor is from bankers, and these are big commercial bankers, that after the Federal Reserve will increase rates all the way till April, they're going to assess the market within 90 days. By summer next year, they're going to say, okay, at least they will say, we're not going to increase the interest rate a little bit for a while. And what's going to happen now, market is going to start picking up again. Because remember, when the Russian war stops and when the actual, well, if it ever stops, I don't know, these people, it's just going crazy right now over there. And all the supply they're giving Europe is now messed up. When people start performing again, having supplies and all this, the demand will continue because there is huge demand. There is billions that come into the US as soon as the world continues having more and more problems.